it's just insane, and he's getting better at this. I'm sorry, he's getting better anyway. At the same time that he's winning all these events, and that's a scary thing to think about when you kind of go through that sort of process. We've gotten a phonetic pronunciation for our lesser known player, Theude. Theude, is that how you pronounce that? Is that what it looks like? Theude.
Yep.
It's got some sort of accent here. We're American slobs, so we don't know how to pronounce it right. 1,000 apologies, all you guys listening out there. But we also have gotten word that Hunter has been banned from both of these players' lineups. I think it's a solid choice right now. Hunter seems to be the strongest. Struggling a little bit with the webcams, a little bit of a technical issue, so ignore that at the moment. But Warrior and Paladin, pretty interesting lead from both these players. This is another matchup where I think originally you would have given a lot of edge to the Paladin. As the game continued to go longer, they had more of an advantage. But again, with the addition of stuff like Deathbite, Warrior's got another way to sweep this board to go along with its Whirlwind. Because these tokens, eventually, at a certain point, it adds up to a lot. But not only does it have Deathbite to start to sweep out all these tokens, but it's also got Unstable Ghoul. So it's got a lot more activators for cards like Execute, for cards like Acolyte of Pain, to sweep your opponent's tokens out of the way. And additionally to that, it's got 16 more points of weapon damage that it's gotten as well. So all of those factors adding up to really a lot of pressure here. And again, a little bit of a technical issue, so apologies for that. Be patient. Yeah. Everything is 100% live. So, technology is a vehicle esports. Sometimes things happen. But
thanks, Tasteless. I think you bring up a really good point that there, with some of these Nax cards, Deathbite gives it just stronger presence mid-game. You don't feel like you get to dedicate a slot to just Whirlwind, but you have Whirlwind plus some damage to clear. So that's really powerful. At the same time, these players are sometimes cutting Whirlwind, and so that they can fit in more greedy cards because now they have Deathbite. They can put in Kel'Thuzad, they can put in Ysera, and all these kind of stuff. Now, by the way, the early game has kind of panned out a little bit. It seems like Amaz is the one on Paladin. I wasn't sure if it was Theude on Warrior or Paladin, but Amaz is starting off decently strong by going for a board clear, and he's able to draw maximum cards off of it, which is really important. Paladin doesn't have the kind of draw engine that you normally expect from other control classes. Its cycling is kind of difficult to come by unless you get things like lay on hands late game. So getting these draws early on in the control matchup is paramount.
Yeah, and we've seen it here. He's utilized it extremely well. Theude was trying to use his own Acolytes of Pain with things like Unstable Ghoul to draw a bunch of cards. And he has drawn some cards, but again, as you were saying, Paladin it kind of struggles with these card drawing mechanisms, so it's really important for him to pick this up early and kind of go from there.
Nice. How about this? He's able to use Sludge Belcher to answer Deathbite. And, people, you kind of even brought this up in the first place, how you want to kind of lower the efficiency of weapons as much as possible. And Deathbite kind of does function as similar to a True Silver Champion, where if you can get out ahead of it, you're able to kind of match it. And what's important is that if you're playing the minion afterwards, too, the death rattles do matter. Where you can't necessarily just get away with Whirlwinding and then killing off the token there with the 1 extra damage. The order in which the minions play with the weapon is actually very important to consider when you're trying to calculate everything.
Yep, death rattles trigger in order of enters, play now. Something very important to keep in mind. And now Sludge Belchers on both sides of the board. This has likely slowed down the game by a significant margin. I anticipate both these players looking for a way to try to grind their opponents out. Neither of them are really willing to overcommit to the board at this point, especially from the Warrior side. He wants to continue to be a slow game where he plays 1 or 2 threats at a time at most. And then, of course, on Amaz's side, he doesn't want to be overusing cards. And what I mean by that is he doesn't want to use things unnecessarily. So something like Sylvanas here, it's not a bad play, but it's certainly not one you're excited about. Sunwalker is again, it sort of fits in that same category. It's like you're not excited to use it. And Spellbreaker, everything's fitting into that category of they're not very strong plays. They're good cards, but they're not offering a lot of individual board presence. And this is actually one of those spots where cards like Sunwalker could come back to bite him.
Yeah, because there's a Black Knight waiting to come out from the bench onto the playing field.
Yep.
I don't really see another way around it, but Theude also just really hesitant because sometimes you get overly excited by Black Knight value, and it blinds you from being able to see the proper play. So take a second, breathe, and evaluate, but also relish in the joy that you get from being able to kill off this 4 or 5 Divine Shield Taunt minion.
Indeed. Something else to note too is if you act too fast, it gives your opponent sometimes a better idea of what your range actually is. If he really takes his time and thinks about this Black Knight, it can give Amaz the impression that he has multiple ways that he could go about answering this, and that could start to throw a player off his game.
Absolutely, that's a good point to note for at least these kinds of high-level play. Now Amaz, let's see what he gets off the response. He does have ways to clear, but you also want to have a quality in hand just as a safety option as the game develops. Draws a Sludge Belcher, which still is a little bit weak considering the board of Warriors still looking pretty strong.
Yeah, this is a tough spot indeed. This honestly, I don't think that Spellbreaker's that bad here.
I'm trying to think about other targets you want to silence as a higher priority. Usually you want to deny draws with like Acolyte. In situations where you're trying to deny your opponent to be able to gain armor.
You need a body here too, though.
Yeah, there's not really anything else. So I think Spellbreaker here is pretty appropriate.
Yeah, Kodo's fine also. Like attacking both your minions and using Kodo. You gotta get something on the board. You need to deal some damage, and you have to start threatening the board position. If you don't make any sort of move towards advancement, the board's going to swing very heavily out of your favor.
Problem with Kodo is that it gets removed really easily by Death Bite because of that one extra damage whirlwind. So Amaz wants to do the best he can to position himself so he doesn't get easily cleared. Picks up his own Black Knight, which is good for the second Belcher, but a little unfortunate out of sequence here.
Pretty interesting draw. Yeah, I still think silencing is right. This forces your opponent to inefficiently use the Death Bite at least. Like they're overkilling.
If at all.
Yes, true.
Okay, let's see. Theude picks up a Fiery War Axe so he can continue pushing out, but his core minions, things like Cairn and Sludge Belchers are what you kind of want to carry a little bit of momentum. But that's what the Black Knight serves really well as. And it's interesting that he has like both Black Knight and Harrison. It's pretty greedy, honestly. Usually you choose one or the other as kind of your tech choice and try to go for more meaty minions. But we'll see if it pays off for Theude because those both have its place in this matchup. Harrison taking out the big weapons and Black Knight on the big taunters.
Yeah, it seems like we reference this almost every single time we talk about deck building and matchups in tournaments as opposed to ladder. But in tournaments, it makes sense to have some greedy lists sometimes because you have to play against a very large range of decks. So an ideal strategy isn't one that 4-0s your opponent. It's one that will have an advantage in almost every single game one and then be able to adequately counter your opponent's lineup as sort of the matchup moves along. You're not looking necessarily just to win every single matchup 3-0. In fact, if your lineup's built that way, I think that you're probably at a disadvantage if you're trying to do that. But on something like ladder, the only thing that matters is winning the first game. So it makes a lot of sense to have your deck strategy be very refined and very consistent, so on and so forth. But in a tournament, the greed is kind of a good thing, honestly, because it gives you these matchups that you need where you have really big, heavy counters to certain kinds of strategies.
All right, well, Harrison will come out most likely. Waiting for Tyrion for a better value is often never really the case because it goes into fatigue. You're drawing into fatigue anyways. And that 5/4 body serves more than just taking out the weapons. So I think this is a good conclusion. Put out the Acolyte as well. Why not? And just continue to build against it. Warrior wants to get ahead of the Paladin because if the Paladin starts loading up on hero powers and you use up your whirlwinds, then they effectively pick really good trades up, and you can't really do anything about it. You're powerless. You're getting your armor shredded every turn with the extra attacks, and you're in a bad spot.
Strong Kodo turn. Very strong Kodo turn.
That's the best target for Kodo, honestly, until like the super late stages of the game.
I think it's the most satisfying target.
No, the most satisfying target is my Exna off of a web spinner.
I haven't run into that scenario yet. I used to
close.
data
Acolyte's a
Spider.
close second.
Yeah, I used to data Spider. Now she's my ex now.
Cute.
Thanks, Reddit.
I like it. Amaz is taking his time, making sure not to overextend. Sure, he's going to get Harrison, can pick up a good trade, but hero powering is also putting very light pressure in good ways. What if your opponent has a quality? If you can't load up the board too much, these Silver Hand recruits become God Slayers, essentially. They just take down anything with a quality.
Yeah, it's something that ends up making the world a difference in the long run is how much power that can generate against a class that doesn't have a natural hero power to attack it. And it's strange to me he's actually really considering playing one of these wild pyromancers here.
Also want to consider if there's a way to die too. You just don't want to, you just want to make sure that you're not within range. Is there ever a time to use Holy Light in this situation as you get to the high stages of mana? And I don't think there is. So Amaz is just considering possibilities, making sure to take his time.
Well, if your opponent had Leroy, Inner Rage, Faceless Manipulator, it's 16, 21, 24.
There you go. So he played around it.
Yeah.
Amaz being super conservative.
Well, he didn't Holy Light at the end, so he didn't. He was considering it, but in the end determined that playing around Leroy, Inner Rage, Faceless Manipulator was not the right play. And I can 100% agree with him.
All right. I didn't see what I think Theude has his Alexstrasza picked out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, let's get a Stig Birch. And
Let's see.
I don't really see attacking minions here. That's just me. I mean, you just dealt your opponent 7 points of damage. You might as well deal him 8 more. It's so much pressure you put on your opponent after you make this kind of play.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of safe enough where you're not afraid of like you kind of expect this to die. Alexstrasza, when she comes out, rarely expect to live, so you're kind of anticipating a kill anyways.
I think it'd be way too safe to attack the Dredo here.
Yeah. You have 2 Fiery War Axes, by the way, so you just kind of use that as burn.
Amaz feels extremely pressured at this point, and rightfully so, and he's got no equality to fight through this board position. This could spell a lot of trouble.
Well, he's got Peacekeeper, so he's got a way to nullify 7 damage right there. And then he can go for like a defensive position, defensive posture with like Sludge Belcher and Holy Light.
Yep.
So he's got that, but it's still like a situation where, you as long as you weather this storm, you're able to continue to push out. Paladin's not trying to reverse win the game and try to gain tempo by winning from a combo. They're trying to just outlast you. So I think if he can kind of survive the next couple turns and heal up, keep hero powering and draw into quality eventually, he still might be able to turn this around.
Yep. So having to use the Holy Light afterwards, really important, by the way, to hold that. Because if he'd used it before, that Alexstrasza would have dealt 13 damage instead of 7. So another really heads-up play by Amaz, showing he knows these matchups extremely well, and he's got a lot of foresight to help avoid some common pitfalls that players might fall into.
All right, well, Theude draws his Brawl, which is also kind of useful sometimes in those, if so facto situations where, Paladin has like an insane amount of 1/1s plus a few threats, and you can kind of sneak one out as a big board clear.
Yep.
But right now it's sitting kind of useless here, so we'll see what he chooses to do.
Looks like it's going to be Execute.
Feeling like an Execute Ragnaros play.
Yeah. Sort of.
Everything else feels really weak.
Yeah, everything. That's exactly what I was about to touch on. Is how super weak everything else feels. I think that Theude is also kind of confident his opponent doesn't have equality given the sequence of plays that just happened.
Yes.
I think that's really factoring into this decision. Oh, and he goes for the dome.
So now Amaz is afraid of something like Gromash has to finish.
Yeah. He has no way to deal with this Ragnaros. He's got to play Sylvanas and really hope it goes through another turn.
Yeah. But
he's got
Ragnaros to the face can just end it.
Yep.
Hold on. Can he do... Let's see. Can he even push through right now? No, he's got only 4 damage. So Theude is actually 1 damage off lethal at the moment.
Oh my gosh. Shield Slam, Execute, and do attack with it, and then use the weapon to attack.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is really close.
How much merit is there?
Not enough.
Let me ask you this one. Do you Shield Slam... Okay, how big of a risk are you willing to take with the Ragnaros? This is really kind of what's coming down to here. Because if he can do something like Shield Slam and Execute this, where he can attack and execute, use Fiery War Axe on the Eldor Peacekeeper, and then pick off this 1/1 and hope that Ragnaros, if it hits Sylvanas, takes either the Alexstrasza or the Armorsmith instead of taking the Ragnaros. But he also
actually, no, this is going to be a 50-50 coin flip for Amaz. Actually, even more than that, it's beyond the 50-50 because he has to also take a minion of value
Yep.
from his opponent. There's 2 out of 3 targets that are not optimal whatsoever. Because second execute plus fire war plus a shield slam allows him to go for full removal.
Yeah, it's been a while since I think I've seen Amaz look uncomfortable. This is one of those spots.
Okay, a big moment. Will Amaz drop game number 1 right here?
Oh, really nice shield slam sequence there, by the way.
Oh
my gosh. Is this going to take Ragnaros?
Oh!
Ragnaros is a five-on.
Again, I don't know how, but Ragnaros has always proved loyalty.
And he picks up Harrison Jones! I don't care what anyone says. Ragnaros, this is...
He serves one master. Let me tell you. Only one person in this universe bends the will of Amaz. You know, Amaz is... He breathed a big sigh of relief, but should he ever doubt Ragnaros? I don't think so.
This is unreal. Like, I don't...
Quality.
I'm stunned.
Oh my
I am
sweet
actually
Lord.
Stunned.
Holy smokes. Now, interestingly enough, you know, he still needs to kill off this Armor Smith because Gromosh top deck is still a kill. Oh! Well, it hits face. At least it's progress to killing him. But Theude can just end this if he draws Gromosh. A face manipulator with his own BGH.
Big game hunter. Are you kidding me?
He needs this to hit Harrison, or else this game is over. Amaz realizes that this situation is tight.
These are huge draws.
Oh my god. It has to hit Harrison. He still has pyro quality. Oh, and this game is over. Theude sneaks it out, but you know what? I can't believe how close that ended up being because Amaz and
by both of these players, honestly. They both recognized their game plans. They both created tension. They responded to the tension well. They were patient with their spells. It's sort of everything worked exactly how it should have worked, it feels like. And at the end, it was just the matchup and the draws really make the difference.
Deathlord making an appearance, by the way, in Amaz's priest deck. And, you know, I wasn't sure how many new Nax cards Amaz has been putting into his priest. It seems like he's stuck more to the old ones, but Deathlord, one of those cards that can do work if you use it correctly in priest. You can get mileage off of it.
These players, by the way, having a much different approach to the metagame than we've seen some of the other players having. This is the third Harrison Jones we've seen in the 3 decks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're really trying to fight against the weapon classes. If you know, even if your game plan is to ban Hunter, everyone's going to bring Warrior in case of something else, right? So it's very common to have that as a tool.
Pretty interesting. Now the patience game begins. How big of a thought steal can Amaz get? Second Deathlord.
Well, he gets an answer to a legendary. So that's at least something. It's like a third Shadow Word Death, I guess.
That's one of the tools you actually want in this sort of matchup too.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to, if you can effectively deal with all of your opponent's legendaries, I think you're feeling pretty good.
No, you bring up a good point because you can deal with it effectively. It's low cost mana, so you can squeeze in one of your other minions, like a Cabal Shadow Priest, if he has like like an Armor Smith or Acolyte out. So, having a card like BGH is pretty important.
Something that he wants to happen here, honestly, I know this seems weird, but he wants his opponent to hit like big legendary, like a really strong legendary off of the Deathlord, so he can big game hunter.
Sure. Alex Straza coming out right here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be
massive.
Beautiful.
All right.
Not sure how I feel about Deathlord in this matchup, though. What do you think?
It is always a liability because in control matchups they play these big creatures. What if it pulls out Ysera? And then all of a sudden, you'd have no way to kill it.
Yeah, it looks like to me he's going to be holding this Auchenai in 2 circles for as long as he can. He wants it to be like another legendary killer. Just trying to bide time. Mm-hmm. Oh, he wants his opponent's board to be overcommitted so he can do that.
Yeah, and he also has Shadow Word Death too, so he's got multiple ways to respond to it.
This could actually be disastrous for Theude.
Yeah, because he has the ability to answer 2 legendaries now in the next turn. Let's see what the Deathlord brings out number 1. And remember, some things like Battle Cry will not be in effect. Oh, no! Wow. That's not very good. But actually, with the circle, he has enough mana to circle plus hero power it down, and then be able to remove it a little bit more effectively
Well,
there.
I think he wants his opponent's board to be completely full so he can double circle.
Yeah, but Karen survives that double circle even if you use hero power with it. So that's what's kind of annoying.
Okay, so you can use Auchenai, and then circle, then use your hero power on the Cairn to set it to a 4/5 and then circle again. So it's gonna be a 4/1 at the end of it. But I think I think his plan was to try to get to that point.
Yeah. It's clever. He has the ability to go for these big combos, and that's what that's what he's shown a lot of proficiency in the past, being able to show restraint. A lot of people would see, well, double armor smith and maybe a sludge belcher. Why not go for knock and not play and go for like a clear? But Amaz is being patient to try and optimize and go for a 3 for 6 or 7 cards, right?
Yep. But smart, honestly, to play that way. This is even showing it more. Like he's trying to force his opponent into committing more to the board, so he can try to get more out of these circles.
Mm-hmm. You know what? If this Lothar is able to push through, we can also even go for the effective clear. You circle once, attack, and then go for a second clear. So shut down the ability for your opponent to do an easy clear, like execute or shield slam on it, and then set it up for the full clear and take control. You have lots of answers with Harrison Jones and Cabal Shadow Priest or whatever comes out, and you also have decent minions to drop, like Sludge Belcher on its own.
So this works out now.
Yeah, Theude has to be really careful not to extend into that too. With that many cards, you're always kind of aware of the clear. So taking extra damage unnecessarily, like for example, this Cairn taking 2 extra damage is really big.
Yeah, it makes that's honestly a world of difference because now this Cairn can get cleared.
Mm-hmm. But how much are you really willing to play around double circle?
That's the other thing too. It's like can you even afford to play around it? Is it reasonable to play around it? All those things come into effect at a certain point.
Oh, man. Lothar coming out. This is good, juicy play here from Amaz, especially if this trades into it.
Yeah. I
Holy
think
smokes.
Oh, wow. Look at this. It really heads up play. Wait, what?
Wait, I'm really confused. I was watching because I was like, he's going to show something creative. But why did he attack his armor smiths into that? That's really curious. Oh, he wants to play around Cabal Shadow Priest. Okay. There you go. That makes sense.
Is it that important to play around?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
This is going to be a full clear regardless, and Amaz is still 30 HP, and he's got a world of answers. He's got Harrison Jones in the hand, Cabal Shadow Priest for an Acolyte of Pain. He's got another Alkanai Soul Priest to help start putting pressure on the armor that Theude's going to build. He's got Sludge Belcher to help present defense, Big Game Hunter, and Shadow Word Death for all his big minions. And now he's dealt with his opponent's Cairn.
Yep.
This is a really tough spot, I think, for Theude to find a strong line of victory here.
He really was playing around Cabal Shadow Priest because now he's not even dropping Acolyte. So I think he's really cautious, and that actually denied him some armor. Actually, it denied him, like, what, 6 armor or so.
Yeah, this is definitely a Harrison turn.
That belongs in a museum.
All right. Let's see what it is. By the way...
Oh my gosh, and that's going to pick up another card. This has been a fantastically played game from Amaz. Like, I am thoroughly impressed by how well he knows this deck and how it matches up against what he thinks his opponents are going to do. This is just, this is mastermind level play.
Okay, well, Theude, he does have a Gromosh, so he has ways to kind of do stuff, but his plays seem a little weak. He wants to draw immediately off of this Whirlwind. Go from there. He has Fiery War Axe to kill off the Harrison, or even execute Fiery War Axe to kill off the Northshire Cleric, but still kind of searching for a way to piece together a win. Needs Alex Straza.
Yeah, he's got 48 effective HP right now, but I don't think that's what Amaz is really that concerned with.
All right. There is something to be said, too, of letting your opponent draw cards and playing the fatigue game.
Right.
Especially in this matchup. And Amaz has to be kind of cautious about it too. Like, I don't want to take too many cards at this point because he might overdraw and then push himself closer to fatigue.
Yep.
In fact, as the game goes on, there might be a time, maybe not now, but where Amaz feels like he might draw too many cards and might just coin for no reason.
He actually probably... I don't even think he's going to draw a card here, is what it's looking to me.
There you go.
Yep.
The light shall burn you.
Thanks.
My thanks. Theude draws his Acolyte number 2, which is quite amusing because I think there's a Cabal Shadow Priest number 2. And so like Theude is just he has things to kind of continue to push through his deck, but it's like he's still kind of in a position where he has to be careful because if he's not doing something on the board impactful, he's going to be losing all his armor, and then he's going to be in a position where he can't really afford to use Alex Strauss sometimes without being at risk of losing everything.
He's got to be careful to not use too much stuff, though. Like, do you need to brawl right here? I think you have one more turn to wait and see how your opponent's going to respond to the board pressure before you choose to brawl.
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
He's going
He's
to go
going
for it
for it,
immediately. This could be a big moment. If things like a Cabal Shadow Priest survives, that would be huge for Amaz. No, it is the lowly Northshire Cleric.
Yep.
But I mean, what does that say? You used a 5 mana cost and you sacrificed your Acolyte just to kill a 4/5 creature.
Feels like a pretty unnecessary risk to me. Like, what's his game? Well, I don't understand what his game plan is right now.
Well, it's wait for Alex Strauss. That's for sure. But does he have such a luxury?
Amaz is pulled very far ahead in this matchup now.
Second Sludge Belcher. Remember, that's the first Sludge Belcher he just played was also a Thought Stolen one, so he's got some more mid-range creature to continue to harass his opponent, use optimal removal.
You know, that's something to consider. Here's something I thought about as well. Is now that this brawl's out of the way, Amaz has no fear of committing to the board. So if Theude, unless he has something like a second brawl in his deck, he has to feel like that play feels so suboptimal because of how much information you're giving to your opponent too. It's like a big sigh of relief when you're in Amaz's position, like, oh, okay, now I can commit to the board. I'm not worried about brawl anymore.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah, it's like not only did you not need to take that sort of risk there, but you give away so much. You give so much leeway to your opponent by letting go of the brawl. I don't know, it just feels bad.
Well, Ragnaros has arrived, and if there's any indication, wow, Amaz, he loses the Northshire Cleric, and that's exactly what he wanted.
Yep.
Of course. I mean, why do you even test him? There's only one King of the Fire. As the BGH will now come out, and Theude's like, what? He plays BGH in his Priest?
He'd have to be paying really close attention to where the cards are to know that BGH had gotten Thought Stolen.
I think you do know, though. Most Priests, they have Shadow or Death. That fills the 3 slot. They don't really need to have BGH. So that's pretty disappointing. And now Theude doesn't have he doesn't have a good target to use Face Manipulator. And Fiery War Axe accomplishes the same exact thing as it is now. Nothing.
Oh, that's a rough spot.
Are you forced to just Faceless here and try to fight back on the board with your weapon?
Oh, Faceless looks awful here. None of his plays feel good. Honestly, at this point, this might be one of those lost cause situations where you've already fallen so far behind. It's like, how do you even begin to pull ahead?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the only way how is to hope that somehow your opponent doesn't have an answer to this garage so that you can Faceless Manipulator at.
Yikes.
But bad news is that Priest almost always has this card in its hand anytime you play a creature with 5 power or greater. And I think that's going to wrap things up. I mean, he's got a lot of life left, but there's no plays here anymore.
I mean, not even that much life. Like, these things kind of just stack advantages with the mid-range creatures that Priest has. Theude might die in 2-3 turns.
Yep.
Maybe even 2. Alex Strauss arriving pretty late to the party, but Amaz is more than well prepared for this.
Oh, it's almost like every time you play a minion with 5 or more power, your opponent has Shadow or Death. Huh. He's got another one. Weird.
Well, he had BGH and double Shadow or Death, so he was prepared from the very get-go. Any kind of threat coming out. I think only Ystera had to give him trouble.
Yep.
even then, he had Pyromancer and a bunch of spells, so I think he would have been okay. And Amaz looks like he has finally pulled out of the woods and evened out this series. Theude doesn't have anything, at least from what I see. Well, he could stall.
This isn't going to get the job done, though. This is merely going to delay the inevitable.
Does he want to see more cards? Maybe that he can do that.
Inevitable. I can't even say that word for some reason. Inevitable.
Inevitably, right?
Inevitable.
Yes.
You know,
I sound really British when I say that.
You press like the definition.
Very impressive, yes.
You press like
inevitable. I see
the pronunciation.
That or indubitably.
Indubitably.
There we go, man. I'm gonna use your voice for English tape lessons that you can listen to on your iPod.
I'd download it.
Let's see. Okay, let's just calculate, by the way, what Amaz can do next turn if this Faceless does come down. So he's got Shadow Word, Pain, and Holy Smite, and that can effectively remove one really easily.
Well, he's got Holy Fire
just,
as well.
Carry the one. And
the trick is how much stuff he can do with the Wild Pyromancer.
Yeah, now it's like a puzzle. Can you lethal him this turn? Which I don't think so now the Pyromancer. Like, it almost endangers you.
It looks like you almost can.
Now I'm like thinking really hard because I know people are taking screenshots of this and trying to figure out if they can do it.
Okay, so you attack your 1/1 and his 1/1. You attack your Big Game Hunter and his 3/4. You attack your Wild Pyromancer into his. Wait, no.
You want a hero power. Your hero power can effectively do 2 damage. Yeah.
And then that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you have 5 plus 2.
Holy Smite.
So you have 16 damage. You're a couple points off, but I think this position still feels. Oh, you could just Cabal Shadow Priest this. You know that?
Oh yeah, just to add insult to injury. Why not?
Yep. At this
then
point,
showing a second Cabal is also like, well, I guess he has 2.
Yep. I don't. Again, though, this board position is just basically insurmountable unless he's got a second roll in his deck, which for whatever reason, I'm highly doubting. If you have Harrison and you have Black Knight, second brawl just feels like it's never part of the range.
All right, well, the series is evened, and Theude will have to go to another class at his art.
Void spot anyway. Every time you kill one of your opponent's minions, you're just going to be getting something mid-sized. So stuff like Shadow Word Death really does a good job at answering a lot of these minions, but it's not quite the same way as with Warrior, where if you lose a couple of 5-power plus minions, you find yourself in a spot where you're like, oh my gosh, how do I win the game? In this matchup, it's like you lose a couple of 5-power minions, and you're like, okay, I've cleared the way for my big stuff now.
Kel'Thuzad, by the way, in the opening hand with a bunch of mana ramps. So Theude looks like he's playing a very heavy Taunt Druid. He mulliganed away Scenarios in the beginning and got it back, which a little unfortunate, but I think he's still very happy with that start.
Scenarios is like a giant gold share footman.
What?
Like
that's not.
He's ready. Like it's like a 9-mana 5/8 is like so underwhelming.
Oh man, are you like, dissing on Scenarios?
It's the ability of it's the battle cry swinging the way the board position is that really makes that card powerful. Like Scenarios himself, like just a 9-mana 5/8. Like think about how statistically inefficient that is for a moment.
Well, there's a lot of 9-mana 8/8s, so you just lose 3 power, and then you just have like a ridiculous
cool stuff though. Like Alexstrasza deals half your opponent's life, and Malagas gives you +5 spell. Again, it's sort of like I'm on the same level. Like something like Ysera, like a 4/12. That's not very good for 9 mana.
Sure. I mean, you distribute the stats that way. Health is pretty good. It's still 16, so like an 8/8. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. Boulder Fist Ogre's got. I mean, that's a 6-mana 6/7.
Yeah, I guess he goes toe-to-toe with Scenarios for 3 mana less. At least on paper. And he's just a grunt wearing a helmet.
Right? It's hard to match the statistical efficiency of something like Gold Sheriff Footman. But Scenarios does it well.
By the way, this curve looks so beautiful, but if the Theude wants to get ahead of it, he has to spend his coin or his Innervate, right? He has 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But I think you kind of want to be mindful of how Priest is going to deal with this. So he's going to coin out Lothef to get ahead of it a little bit and be able to put on some board pressure. But Amaz, he doesn't really have that good way to respond to it. Normally, you'd like to start doing power word shield and heal, maybe even circle if you only start drawing a crap ton of cards. But I think Amaz will have to go for a passive turn.
Look at the card draw. And just passing it. I'm a little surprised by that.
What did you have preferred to do then?
Well, I'm not surprised that he made that. I'm surprised he did so quickly.
Oh, okay.
Like, think about how many different board positions happen if you choose to be aggressive and like play Alkanai and just go for face, versus using power word. I'm sorry, not using power word shield, but like potentially just like allowing him to attack and then counter healing. Like, there's so many different things that can happen, and he just concluded it so fast. I was just surprised by it.
Well, sometimes you don't need to really overthink, and you just need to act. And Amaz is going to immediately act and try to draw another card, dig through his deck, second Thought Steal, and he draws BGH yet again. But it's because most of the huge threats are in the hand of Theude. Like, he's got two of his heaviest legendaries. He's got double Agent of War and Druid of the Claw's Taunters at 5 mana. What else is he really going to do? This is exactly what Ram Druid always this is someone's having a wet dream right now. Imagine this. Because it never happens to them when they're playing Ram Druid. They're getting zooed or they're getting hunted, and they're like, all I want is to play one big minion after another. And Amaz or Theude is living the dream.
Amaz, by the way, he's got another Alkanai double circle combo. So this is very similar to the same position we saw last game, where he wants his opponent to be overcommitted to the board, and he's going to respond from there.
Not bad. Pulls out the Black Knight without any value. It's a 4-attack minion, by the way. One of many with Sunwalker, Druid of the Claw,
Priest has no way to deal with 4-power minions, except for regular damage.
And mind control.
Yep, healing damage is the only way to deal with 4-power minions from Priest.
All right, Keeper of the Grove is a nice tool, but not really necessary. He's got so many other big threats. He can take out with the hero power as well.
I think you just
put on pressure. Eventually, Priest will run out of ways to deal with this. They only got so many Alkanai Soul Priest and Circle combos.
Taunt is a very interesting choice to me.
But at Holy Fire range?
I think you're very happy to get Holy Fired right now. I mean, look at your hand. Like, if your opponent Holy Fires this Druid of the Claw, you're not like, damn, what do I do now? Like, I think you're just totally fine with it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. At the same time, there's not really a good target in the hand of Theude to use Holy Fire on. You're most likely using Shadow Word Deaths on these tees. So it's kind of difficult to say.
He's also 30 too, so if he puts him at 26, then he gets Holy Fired back to 30. Like, all you've done is you've just extended the turn by 1 mana for you. And I don't. This is just of course, my personal opinion, but I feel like the longer this game goes, the bigger advantage that Theude has.
Well, I'm inclined to agree. Looking at the hand of the Druid, Kel'Thuzad, he's hovering over it, which I usually like dropping Kel'Thuzad immediately when you can pick up some value. Otherwise, it's just a big 6/8 minion. And if you're not afraid of Shadow Word Death, then it's a little irresponsible, I feel. Right.
Remember what we were talking about earlier, where you trying to bait out removal with Kel'Thuzad and then follow up with your big stuff afterwards? I feel like that's exactly what he's trying to do here. Like, I think he wants to get Shadow Word Death out of the way so he can start developing things like Cenarius and Ancient and all those sorts of things. Like say you get a couple of removal spells here, suddenly your opponent's finding themselves in a spot where they don't really have an option.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, man. This has been a disaster.
Wait, what on earth?
No,
What just happened?
Amaz slipped. He meant to Shadow Word Death, I think, and he pulled his BGH out. Oh, my God. Wow, that has been also, Theude might really consider that Amaz might be running BGH in his Priest deck. Now I was like, wait, that's 2 games in a row that he's had BGH. This is actually absolutely awful for him. I mean, maybe because...
Is that an actual misclick?
Was it? I thought he was trying to reach for Shadow Word Death, or did he think that he had 7 attack for some reason? I'm not sure. You know, I have to be a little bit on Amaz's side here
6
because
does not equal 7.
oh, hashtag Amaz math.
Yeah, just Amaz things.
Ooh, so you know what? It wasn't a misclick. You know, I was trying to justify a little bit in my head, but it's just a straight out misplay. Uh-oh.
Oh,
You know what happens? It's what, 4 a.m. right now for Amaz?
oh, that's right. Amaz is in Hong Kong.
Yep. It's a little
That
bit
makes the
tiring
world
for
of
him,
difference.
but
Oh yeah.
gosh, regardless, you can't really look at that as a way to excuse what just happened.
You know, he's still not really out of this. Like that was. It ends up being like a pretty unfortunate misplay, but his board position still seems totally fine. Except his opponent is just drawing a Ragnaros, and so I take back what I just said. His board position is
Okay.
not fine. This is not.
This
okay.
is what's gonna happen. If he plays something like Ragnaros, Amaz will thought steal again and get BGH anyways. I'm telling you. Or even
he'll just draw his
oh,
own
no,
Ragnaros, and his Ragnaros will hit his opponent's Ragnaros.
Sure.
Easy game.
Yeah, but that's I almost feel like this is exactly what's gonna happen. There's no other way for Amaz to deal with unless he top takes Shadow Word Death, because Ragnaros is making an appearance right here, and he is really upset. And
Yeah.
what a way to rub in your misplay on your opponent, right? You play Ragnaros right after you accidentally dropped Big Game Hunter.
Look at Theude's hand, by the way. We were talking about how the longer this game goes, the bigger of an advantage he has. He's got 16, 23, 28. He's got 32 mana worth of spells in his hand still. Oh, Amaz needs something really big off of this Thought Steal right now.
BGH. See.
That's an Ancient
This-
of War instead. Yeah, but at this point, he wants to fill the board and hope that eventually he can overcome the amount of pressure that this Ragnaros is going to be putting on.
Okay. Do you even like innervate out the Thalanos?
I think you save it. I think that Innervate is serving a much bigger purpose in your hand right now to give you the option to play Ancient Allure and select Belch next turn than it will be just by trying to soak up a Ragnaros hit.
Okay. Fair enough, and also can just get swiped down.
That as well. Oh, Wrath's a pretty big pickup.
Well, he also has Faceless, by the way.
Yeah, this is. I don't know if Amaz is getting himself out of this one. He probably needed to Thought Steal like Force Nature Savage Roar.
If his opponent has, I mean, well, to be fair, I think Theude is holding most of the cards worth Thought Stealing. So it's not like Amaz could have Thought Steal anything of value. It seems like Theude has drawn most, if not all, of the important cards that deal the game-winning conditions. So he really whiffed with this Thalanos, but I wasn't expecting anything else, honestly.
I'm sort of surprised Thanos is even in this deck. But this is Faceless on right. Oh, look at Amaz, he's shaking his head. Don't do it. Don't do it.
No. Misplays lead to death.
This is really, really tough to ever come back from. Because now he needs 2 effective methods to deal with these. Even if he deals with these, he's looking at facing down.
Double face, double face.
Wow!
Well, there's hope. Barely.
Oh, this is
Hope
ugly.
barely. Is there a way for him to be able to answer this? He has Shadow or Death, but that's his second one. And not to mention that there's still big sluggers coming right afterwards.
Yep. Are these going to be uprooted trees? Is that a possibility? Not anymore.
No, not really.
Oh,
you can't
healing.
do that. He doesn't want to die to a Ragnar shot like he did in the first game. Keep in mind, Theude did end the game that way.
I don't know if that's the right play or not. But
Well,
that's
hey, how
happening.
about this? Consider this. What if his opponent doesn't, like, say he just plays, like, Ancient of Lore again, draws 2 cards, and then, like, passes, and then the Ragnaros hits the face. Is there a way for Amaz to draw into lethal? Like, I think, is this what he's considering? Like, is this my chance to actually win the game? Because he has 13 damage.
This is 14
right
points
there.
of power on the board.
Right. 14 damage.
He's playing to his outs, I guess.
So I mean, he's
it's-
trying to make this a game.
Yep.
But we know that it's pretty much not a game based off what Theude has held, unless he accidentally misclicks the uproot.
Wait
and
a
keep
minute.
in mind, well, I was going to make a point, Admiral, that keep in mind that uproot and taunt is actually flipped when traditionally you choose taunt on the right side. I know people complained about this for like months, that the taunt was on the wrong side of the options choice.
Oh my
For
God.
consistency, wow!
Wow, it's the Blood Mage. That gives him an extra draw. No, not what he needs. Oh, how on earth can Amaz possibly get out of this situation? I guess it starts with a Holy Nova.
Okay, Holy Nova, trade in. Play another Sludge Belcher, press for damage. And again, if he can't end the game, he's sneaking in there. This is still possible. At least in Amaz's eyes. I feel like it's not possible based off the information, but I think Amaz still is fighting. Plus, you know, he's getting good intel. He saw Kel'Thuzad. He's like, what other legendaries do you have? Show me.
Sure, yeah, I mean, that's something important to note, is he does need to play the game out regardless to get more information.
Yeah. He's like, yikes, another Ancient of Lore. Does he have a silence? Does Amaz run a silence in his deck? If Ragnaros hits face,
Well,
no, he doesn't have enough damage.
Could he draw consecutive Holy Fires?
Oh man, that would be crazy. Oh, it needs to go face or something.
Not gonna I?
Soul Priest.
It's only 7 points. I think you gotta play both your guys and pass.
I think so too.
Yep. Good luck and God bless.
But
he's still gotta fight through the taunts too. There is no way Amaz is winning this game. I'm sorry for you Amaz fans out there, but goodness gracious. I mean, look at what's happening. There's gonna be more taunts hitting the board. There's more damage coming in. He doesn't have a way to push through the taunt. He's out of Shadow Word Deaths. He doesn't. I don't think he's a big game hunter in his own list. Like what?
Nope.
What on earth does he need to draw to push through this game?
I was trying to think if there's a way to end the game right now, by the way, with silencing your own rag and pushing through.
I was just thinking that too.
He can't. I don't think he can do it.
No. He's missing a way to kill that little 1/2.
Sludge Belcher's keeping Amaz in this game. Heavy lifting.
Excuse me while I lift this game on my shoulders and carry it.
Gosh, you know what? I don't think even like Holy Fire does anything anymore. If this Ragnaros has to like Amaz hopes it hits face, but that's about it.
Here's a way for Amaz to win, I guess.
Wait, Shadow Word Pain goes through the Senjin.
Okay, here's a way for him to win. He needs to draw Holy Fire right here. Okay, Holy Nova is not going to do it.
Nope.
And I'm pretty sure that sealed it.
Yeah, you can Shadow Word Death, or Shadow Word Pain, excuse me, and kind of push through, but he's stuck, and he's at the mercy of his opponent. Cenarius is the final thing, but wow, you know, Amaz has almost outlasted the Ramp Druid, and if he had BGH, this game actually I think would have went to Amaz.
Well, we say almost, and the hits keep coming. A Sludge Belch is picked up, in addition to the Cenarius. He's played it really well aside from the big game hunter blunder.
By the way, do you make 2-2 and then push for damage and make the Ragnaros 50-50 to win the game?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I like this play.
No, +2/+2.
You innervate out the hero power,
yeah,
and then you slip to win the game.
Yeah, because then either when it hits, you basically win the game.
Yes. So Amaz is kind of, he's dragged out the painful execution, if you will. Oh man, it's gonna continue going.
It just the game wants to, Ragnaros is like, please don't make me kill my master.
Oh man.
Wait a minute.
He had Holy Fire. That is too bad. Wow. You know, actually there was a chance in order to turn it around. Shaman against Druid's pretty good. We'll see if it's gonna be able to go the entire way, but for now Amaz will have to fight back. At a deficit, Theude, will he be the other guy from the open bracket upsetting one of the invites and going into round number 2.
Yeah. You have to consider too, to fight through a 128 player bracket, you got to play you got to play cards pretty good. So when he gets to a spot like this, not only is this is his chance and he feels really confident, but he's also got momentum on his side because he's just pulled off such a big string of wins. So in this matchup, I feel like that Shaman has a pretty distinct advantage. Something like Earthshock pulls a lot more weight against a deck that has against Ancient of War instead of just a traditional Druid deck that's going to be putting a lot of pressure with Chillwind Yetis. Hex gets a lot of work done, and then of course, since your opponent isn't fighting as much with stuff like Chillwind Yeti, cards like Feral Spirit go up in value early, where they fall in value late. But so early is where he's wanting to go when he's playing these cards, kind of pushing a little bit for damage. I'm a little surprised he chooses to Totem here instead.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, you want to get ahead of Druid and utilize the Flame Tongue like you mentioned.
Yep.
But you know what? He's also playing like, you know, in a way the totems do represent the same value. God, Wild Growth into Innervate Coin Ancient of Lore. Man, that is just a disgusting start for the Druid. Yep. Getting both Wild Growth and Innervate to start off both these games has been massive for Theude.
It's a tough spot to come back from. 17, 22, 28, 33. He's got 37 mana worth of spells in his hand. He's accelerated that point. He feels safe. This is going to be a tough one for Amaz, I think. Over-toteming really proving to be valuable here, though, because now this Flame Tongue Totem is going to be pulling a lot of weight moving forward. So, you know, I said that it was a little questionable that he chose to use the Totem here. At least from my perspective, I would have preferred to go an aggressive route. But in this pan out right here, the one that we're seeing, this works a lot better for Amaz, I think. Because now he gets to use Feral Spirit to protect his Flame Tongue Totem, so he gets a lot more mileage out of it than he would have before, where Flame Tongue Totem would have been pressing for an advantage, and then stuff like Ancient of Lore would have been able to start chewing through and putting a lot of pressure on Amaz, and him kind of struggling from behind because he had consumed so much mana with the Feral Spirit early.
Yeah, and I mean, and Ancient of Lore already is just I mean, it's a cantrip card. That's what it is. So it's already paying for itself multiple times over. You want to efficiently remove it, and you don't feel good using things like Hex on it compared to how many threats your opponent has.
Right.
Amaz, by the way, he's also, as much as he would like, he's 1 mana off from doing everything he'd like. It's dropping Feral Spirits, using Flame Tongue and Rock Biter, and going for an easy clear. But it seems like he's going to have to make a tough choice here somewhere.
Looks to me like you just play Flame Tongue. You consume... He's worried about swipe is what he's worried about, by the way. You consume both your totems. Oh, wow. That's very strange. Because now can you Flame Tongue now? What the heck?
Yeah, well, he's going for the Flame Tongue to kill
well,
this, and I guess...
You lose your... Oh, he's setting up for Fire Elemental next turn. Okay. I mean, that makes some sense, but I feel like you still are a little bit... I feel like you could have gotten out of that turn a lot better. Again, oh my gosh.
Swipe off the top with a Thanos.
Well, brother, this is bad news. Yeah, Thanos swipe is pretty significant at the moment.
It's significant because it completely resets the board. Like, Amaz doesn't have good targets for Defender Vargas. You know, Feral Spirits with the Flame Tongue would have been really good, but as much as the Flame Tongue would have died, at least he would have had a board to continue to bounce it off of. Now Amaz has to start back from scratch. I guess the nice thing is that he already saw a swipe, so he can't just immediately swipe the second Fire Elemental that easily, unless he drew it in the first 10 cards, which is highly unlikely.
Yep. Oh, wow. Right off the top. That is a huge draw on turn 7.
Wow. Theude getting back-to-back important top decks to answer Shaman.
Is he going to uproot? I want someone to uproot.
Did we see that?
It'll never happen.
No, in the VGVN it happened, where Lucky, because he used like Kill Command early to not end the game, it allowed Forsen to uproot or something, or was it Raynat? I don't remember. It was actually really crazy the way that everything panned out.
Gonna uproot that tree. I just want to know where to gold at.
Just keep digging, brother.
Oh my gosh, this board. You feel pretty confident playing Ragnaros here, considering your opponent didn't Hex or Earthshock.
Yes.
Your 5/10.
Well, even then, you're still feeling a little bit okay. But now Ragnaros comes out. If it hits the fire elemental, then Amaz is very far behind, although he already is struggling. No.
That's one of the good ones, actually, believe it or not. But he didn't draw what he needed, so this game's looking grim.
Still, he can actually. I was thinking you still can if you have
Well, he can clear this board.
Gnomish Inventor.
But what happens after he clears his board is then he's just struggling to find like relevance of plays. Like look at his. He knows his opponent's hand is going to be full of these high mana minions. This is what Ramshrew does. It gets through the early game with a couple of spells like Wild Growth or Wrath. He uses Innervate to accelerate something out, and then just plows out big minions for the rest of the game.
Well, let's see what he draws off these Gnomish Inventors. At least he's keeping up his hand size. And you know what? He's dealing with big threats without Hex. So as much as, it's a little bit painful and he's losing his board, Amaz also has gotten to the point where he still has some of his big threats like Alakir and Rockbiter. And if his opponent just, like say he's using Hex on Cenarius and, Sylvanas, and he builds up his own board, he still can build up something pretty intimidating, I think. And I don't think Theude runs combo here. We haven't seen any piece of it.
No, I don't think he's running combo either. Like especially after seeing like how much density of high cards he has, it'd be pretty unlikely, I think, to see Force Nature combo out of here. But this is another strong play from him. Look, even after he's lost control of the board again, he's able to make sort of a defensive clear play, and then has another setup play for next turn. So this Sludge Belcher is going to be holding off a lot of offensive positions that Amaz could possibly take, and he's going to follow this up with even more strong minions. This is a very well-built deck.
Yeah, and I think that's where Ramshrew is really able to excel, playing slow and matching exactly card for card while being able to outlast your opponent.
Yep.
By the way, it's interesting that Amaz is playing Argent Squire, because I even believe as recent as yesterday we saw a Shaman. He was playing Undertaker in that spot. And now he's kind of rotated Argent Squire back in.
Yeah, it could be like a trial also, like between the two. It's possible he's running both. I'm not going to say it's not possible. It sort of indicated to me that yesterday that maybe he wasn't playing Argent Squire because of that, but that not to discount the possibility of both.
Okay, now a Cenarius buff is going to be very difficult to deal with.
That Harvest Golem should be next to the Defender of Argus here as well, so that way he could potentially Defender of Argus that. I saw him just shake his head a little bit. I think he realized it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. See, Theude gets Wild Growth, which is just basically a cycle card, nothing else. If he buffs up 2/2, he gets... Does he have a way to clear the board? I think he's just going to be short because of the Harvest Golem life.
I don't even think he needs to be concerned with clearing right now. Like his minions have very high health. He's at a high life total himself. Amaz is running out of cards. He just needs to make efficient plays. This is honestly, I think this is a really good turn for Cenarius again because you're just not really worried about anything.
Okay, see what he draw off the Thalnos, which implies he's going to play Keeper the Grove. Otherwise, you'd buff your Thalnos to intimidate your opponent.
Yep. To intimidate you. The only reason why.
Not that the +2/+2 buff does anything, right? So he does.
Oh my gosh, he picks up Kel'Thuzad.
So I guess the Keeper plus Sylvanas seems like a really good play. And then you have the ability to drop Kel'Thuzad and just seal the game.
Well, what I'm thinking sort of is, yeah, he can do this and then play the Kel'Thuzad.
Okay.
And everything just comes back.
That's true. Actually, the Thalnos comes back too. Yeah. I forgot about
so
that
does
card.
The top minion. And bad news for Amaz.
He used his Rockbiter, so he can't even chew through really effectively with like the Alec here.
He can kill this Kel'Thuzad, but then again, he still has to worry about how he can deal with the rest of his opponent's hand.
And Shaman doesn't have many ways to continue drawing either. We're talking about classes limited by their draw engines. Shaman is one of them. That's why things like Azure Drake
Sure.
are really important in Manatide Totem
Yep.
for pre-Nax, that is.
I feel like Manatide Totem's been cut from a lot of these versions. I still feel like Azure Drake's okay. But you definitely are going to have trouble fitting it in. You want to focus a lot on your early game and your consistency throughout. Because I feel like most of the games you win are won through just significant pressure in the early to mid game. So he's going to kill this Kel'Thuzad. I agree with this. This needs to die. But then how do you move forward?
Well, you just do what you can. Amaz gonna go for a little bit of the clear. The 3 damage is not gonna bring him any closer to lethal, but Druid is looking so powerful.
Yep.
And Theude looking in prime position just to end the game soon. I don't know if in the next couple of turns or not, but eventually, like, there's gonna be a point where Amaz just can't do anything. He's gonna be top decking, playing a card, and Theude has many good things to do.
Yep. This is going to be a keeper of Sylvanas turn, I imagine. After he draws his card, of course. Get a little bit more information out of it. You could also... I don't think there's anything wrong with using Faceless Manipulator on your opponent's Alakir here.
Oh, man. And then you buff it with Cenarius, and it's a 10 damage kill with whatever you have left, like Cenarius with the 5 damage. That is pretty gross.
A lot of... He's got all the options in the world. It just doesn't even really matter what he does at this point.
Well, he looks like he mercifully leaves up Alakir.
Well, I think
just
he's
kidding. He has
Wrath,
Innervane
yeah.
Wrath. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. I was a little bit more focused on the Sylvanas play, so it seems like Theude's just going to go for that. It doesn't really matter, though, because the threats have been out there, and Amaz top decks Harrison Jones.
Probably the worst the worst
Belongs in a
mid. It's like the worst not terrible draw in his deck.
Or you can, yeah, or it's just a bad draw. I think we can just go with that.
Hey, it's a 6/5 taunt. I think it's okay.
Yeah. The point is that it doesn't really function anything. It's kind of same as Argent Squire in that sense, where you have ways to stall, but there's nothing else that brings you back. If that, in like the mirror matchup when you Harrison the Doomhammer, that's just the biggest rebound. But in this case, Amaz is nothing.
I'll never forget that day.
It's Theude, by the way, aiming swipe. He really is taking his time. He's making sure there's no way to throw this game. And believe me, there have been some throws in the past, so his patience is justified.
Yep.
But it is a little bit choppy. I think he's being so careful, but it's like, I have 5 cards, including removal and silence and a mind control, and
Honestly,
he has nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough spot to be in. It's not even because of like he doesn't have a way to make a good play. It's because he's got so many good plays that he has to figure out which one is best. And sometimes that's tough to do. Hex is probably too little too late.
Yeah, he needed Hex way earlier to deal with some of the threats that were coming at him.
Yeah,
And I think this is enough for lethal. Theude is going to end this game and win this series and move on to round number 2. Another underdog pushing over one of the invited seeds. And you have to kind of wonder what could have been if Amaz didn't use his BGH and was able to stabilize. That Ragnaros in the previous game lasted way too long. And that could have been a brand new series. Amaz actually could have maybe even won the game. Who knows? Or won the entire series.
Two big ups.